Hey there guys, how's it going? So I've come up with a couple of different strategies to take care of the 13th stage of the Organization 13 event featuring Zexion. It's basically the same as what I had the other day for the first strategy, where I'm just using an illustrated Aron to get rid of the Barrier Masters and then basically dealing damage with the rest of the Keyblade. People were suggesting that I used a copycat medal to copy illustrated Aron, and I was thinking about it the other day, thinking that I wouldn't have enough buffs to take care of Zexion if I did that, and then I did a test and was like, oh, yeah, right, medals are crazy powerful these days. I have more than enough buffs to take care of Zexion, so thank you to those who suggested it. And then the reason I'm using Naminé is because I put it on a blue Keyblade, and even though I really don't need to, the only important factor here is how much guilt is being applied to it. So if I wasn't already using my HD Vanitas, I'd use that, or I could use HD Xion in the slot instead. Like, the slot multiplier doesn't matter at all. It's literally, if you're copying a fixed damage medal, the only thing that matters is this number right here. So, but Naminé is more than enough for work anyway. Kairi for our buffs with second chance as well is very important, and essentially after that it's just as much damage as you can possibly throw at these guys for this particular strategy. So I'm using the Keyart 17 that I pulled the other day. No desirable traits on it whatsoever, unfortunately, but whatever, that's not a big deal. Copycat medal to copy it. I'm using Counterpoint just because Keyart 17 into a copycat medal worked quite nicely for me in terms of just raw damage output, and then Vanitas copying an Axial Prime on the back, because again, Axial Prime is probably one of the most powerful medals in the game right now. Well, at least until we can start evolving our tier 6s and tier 7s, and tier 8s, which some people can do already, but I can't quite do just yet. But anyway, this is going to go over pretty quickly. There's really no strategy behind this one. I can pretty much just leave it on auto. There's like one little thing I'll show you though, as a kind of tweak to what I'm doing. And the only reason I'm doing that is because the Axial Prime that I'm borrowing has extra attack. But anyway, you can see here if we use Naminé to copy and Aron, the Aron itself stats don't matter. It's literally the fact that the Naminé is max guilted, meaning that it does way more than enough to take care of the first Barrier Master in one hit. I'm not going to attack with the second Aron, and the reason is because I want to preserve that 4 counter over the Zexion's head. So I'm going to go ahead and tap right there onto him. I'm going to use Kairi right there to bring the counter back up to 5, and the reason I'm doing that is because if we have a look here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 attacks remaining. So if we leave it on auto right now, we're going to bring that Zexion counter all the way down to 0. As you can see here very, very quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2. Just great amounts of damage, and nearly 3 million per hit from the Axial Prime. Crazy amounts of damage, crazy. Anyway, over 3 million per hit from the actual Axial Prime itself, which is nuts because that's not on a very high multiplier. This medal is insane. Okay, there we go. So the fact that he's been brought down to 0 now is great because he's going to retaliate, and that's going to be the entire retaliation turn cancelled out. He does a tiny amount of damage to us, but check it out. All the buffs and debuffs are still applied to him. So you have a choice now. If you really, really need those buffs and debuffs, you can skip using Naminé right now, because if we use Naminé right now and kill the Barrier Master, what's going to happen? All the buffs and debuffs are going to go away. I'm going to show you that happening because I'm going to show you that it still doesn't really matter. The amount of buffs and debuffs I have is going to knock it back down to effectively the same place anyway. But if you didn't kill the Barrier Master this turn and instead waited to next turn, it can't hurt you anyway. So you really want to focus on getting rid of Zexion as quickly as possible. So you could have just left that alone and not attacked it. You're pretty much forced, like, there's no way of not tapping on Zexion right there. I'm going to go ahead and use Kairi right now. Again, just leave it on auto from now on. If I didn't debuff him first, that Kairi would have dealt more than 1 damage, but it really doesn't matter. The rest of the medals I have are powerful enough that I can take him out. But if your medals aren't, and like you really, really need those debuffs to be preserved onto the second turn, then just keep that in mind. You don't necessarily have to attack the Barrier Master the second turn. And right, so we get retaliated on here only because we were forced to trigger the counter there. But again, second chance is more than enough to take care of him for us. So, I mean, yeah, we can use Aron here. But yeah, the battle's already over at this point. There's nothing he can do against us. So Kairi and then Keyart 17 to finish him off. Again, I'm using Keyart 17, and it is very, very powerful in terms of the buffs and debuffs. But as much power as you can pack into your Keyblade in the back, you know, 5 slots, including the Friend Medal, should be more than enough. He's not particularly strong in this Zexion, which is great. It means that we didn't have to do any more pulls to attain this medal, which I don't hate the Zexion Plus medal. I just think that going forward, I really, really, really want to keep saving jewels. You know, the Toy Story event is coming up, and given past events crossovers like Final Fantasy Record Keeper, you know, DuckTales, World of Final Fantasy, so on and so forth, there is a pretty decent trend of having a good amount of medals coming out from a collab, and one or two of them being like extremely good. So even though like the Zexion Plus deal is not a bad deal by any stretch of the imagination, and the medal, if you don't have a fixed damage medal already, could be very useful in the future, you never know. As well as quite useful for PvP. I'm thinking that I'm probably going to skip it just because the guaranteed medals that come with it as well, I've already got pretty much all guilted out. Again, if you're a newer player that lacks sort of like the resources, like you don't have a defensive medal and you don't have, you know, all of the other guaranteed medals that come along with that deal, I still think it's a really good deal to pull for. But just in my case, again, people would laugh at me going, you have nearly 50k, what are you saving for? Well, that's the point, is because I make decisions like this and I think, okay, I want to keep saving in the future, so yeah, anyway. Okay, so obviously this setup right here is like a superior version of what I just showed you. It's exactly the same configuration, copycat medal out the front, even though like a better copycat medal, copying a fixed damage with some buffs, with Keyart 17, with an even superior copycat version, on a superior Keyblade because of all the buffs happening right now, because of the Union Cross that happened last week, a week before, whatever. This is obviously going to take it out in a much quicker amount of time. What if you went ahead and like didn't have Riku, the Riku replica, for example, but maybe you had Lexaeus from last month? I've got Keyart 17 again there, and just because, even if you don't want to go ahead and pull for the 7-star version, I think I really have to recommend pulling just one copy for the 6-star version, just because of the sheer amount of buffs and debuffs it gives off. All the debuffs that it gives off, the -4 to upright defense, -4 to magic, which is whatever, but -4 to general defense is huge. So I'm going to be using my Keyart 17 here, even though it's like fully guilted at tier 17. You obviously can't ignore the amount of damage that it does, but I'm really just setting up the rest of the Keyblade. So anyway, you guys will see that in a second. If the loading times ever actually let me play this bloody game. So yeah, hopefully we can go ahead and win it again here. I'm really happy this event wasn't super difficult because, again, really trying to save jewels for the future. And or more or less just going to let this thing play here. So again, I didn't even bother changing up my setup at all there. It's still more than enough to take out the Barrier Master there on the first turn, and now we just simply begin debuffing. So -3 to his general defense now, and then with Sora there, we're going to do -7 to the general defense, meaning that Lexaeus can come in and instead of dealing 1 damage where he did every other time, he'll do it like, you know, a casual 11 million there or something. It's happening pretty quickly now, as you can see. Just stupid amounts of damage being dealt out. The difference here is that he's not going to reach 0 at the end of this turn. He's going to go ahead and retaliate, and therefore buff himself back up. But again, just the amount of buffs and debuffs. We're going to be able to go ahead and bring him back down to 0 again, because we're going to use our copycat into our fixed damage medals. So just tap there because, you know, whatever, why not? And again, fully debuffed, and here comes Kairi again, getting some good debuffs going, and then Sora for the rest of the relevant debuffs that we need. That -7 general defense is just so handy though, it's so good. And we should be able to take him out within 2 turns, pretty handily. Yeah, we're definitely going to take him out within 2 turns here. So yeah, not a super difficult event this one, but I mean, again, for a new player that doesn't have a wealth of resources, I can definitely see why it might be difficult. I think, again, for a newer player, grabbing that Zexion Plus deal is definitely not a bad idea. There we go, we beat him in 2 turns. Just because, like I'm trying to illustrate, having a wealth of good medals is always a really nice thing. And if you do, you know, your 5 pulls in there, you'll get your 10 different premiums, which hopefully we'll be able to get a few new gilts out of that, of, you know, pretty decent tier 7 medals. Like I was saying the other day, nothing particularly new or game breaking, but just good quality stuff. And then you also get a medal that'll help you quite a lot in PvP. And if you do happen to use it in this challenge, you won't have to, obviously you won't have to use 2 slots doing a copycat into your fixed damage. You can just use your fixed damage. Anyway, if you need more specific advice, as always, please jump on the Discord. We can help you out there. There are a wealth of amazing people on there ready to help you out. But until then, guys, I'll catch you later. All the best. Lots and lots of stuff happening in the shop right now, and I think a lot of it is bait for upcoming Toy Story medals. That's what I'm thinking. But anyway, guys, I'll catch you later. All the best. Bye.